Hello and welcome to the Postcard Professor, where we take complex ideas and explain them in the space of a postcard. In this video, we're going to be setting up a basic simulation in ANSYS Fluent. And to do that, we need to start off with four things. First off, we need to define the geometry. Now, this is a little bit different than the geometry we use in ANSYS Mechanical, because the part we want is the region where the fluid is, not the solid. In other words, we want to simulate the region around our object rather than the object itself. So we're going to define our geometry as a nice-sized box around an airfoil. And we'll define the exact airfoil shape later, but we're just going to sketch one in right now. We don't want these boundaries to be too close since that can affect our results. I'm going to put them 10 meters away in every direction except for downstream. I'm going to place that one 15 meters away. Usually helps to have a little bit more space there. Now next, we need to define what sort of fluid we're going to be using. For baseline, we can say air, but ANSYS Fluent needs very specific definition of what air is. For our model, we're going to use the default, which is a constant density and constant viscosity. Third, we need boundary conditions. So boundary conditions are a generic term for all the loads and constraints that we applied back for ANSYS Mechanical. For fluid flow, we're going to define things like inlet, outlet, and wall for these boundary conditions. The inlet is going to be specified velocity, and we're putting that on the left side in front of the airfoil. The outlet goes on the right side, and we're going to specify pressure there. Finally, we need a wall, and this can be either zero slip or zero shear, depending on which one we want. The airfoil is going to be a zero slip wall because there should not be any flow directly on the surface. The flow should go to zero there. And then on the top and bottom, those walls are non-physical, right? They're just defining our domain. And so we don't want any shear force on that wall. It should be able to flow right past. Now, finally, just like in ANSYS Mechanical, we will need to work with a mesh. The default mesh was fine for ANSYS Mechanical. We were able to play with it, make it better. But in ANSYS Fluent, we really need to improve it a bit before we can do any sort of simulation. And so to do that, we're going to be looking at the edge sizing on the airfoil. And that'll define a bit better how many points are going exactly on that airfoil surface. And then we're going to define an inflation around the airfoil. So we're going to put more points in the region immediately around the airfoil. So we didn't get into the weeds too much here. Very top level view, those are the four things we need. So what do we get out of this simulation? Well, first off, whenever we do this simulation, we get the pressure and the velocity everywhere. And then once we have that information, we're going to be able to create contour plots. We're going to be able to make a line plot looking at variables on the airfoil surface. And then finally, we're going to be able to integrate the pressure to find the integrated force on the airfoil surface. And that gives us lift and drag. So with all that said, let's go ahead and start making an airfoil shape in Excel. So there are a few different ways of doing this, and we could have just looked up points for an airfoil from an online database. But I'm going to go the route of calculating the points directly for a NACA 4412 airfoil using these equations that you see on the screen. So this first equation defines the camber line, and that's the line that passes through the middle of the airfoil. This next one defines the thickness. And you can see that both of these rely on these parameters M, P, and T, which come directly from those four digits. So those four digits define exactly how the airfoil is shaped. And you can generate any four-digit NACA airfoil using these equations. Now, I will say that the thickness equation that we're using has been adjusted slightly to allow for a sharp trailing edge compared to what's being shown from Wikipedia here. A perfectly sharp trailing edge is not realistic. Everything is rounded if you zoom in enough, but having a sharp trailing edge will make the simulation easier, and it'll make it so that we don't need to have a whole lot of extra points in that trailing edge region to define our mesh. Also, we're going to set the chord length of our airfoil to 1 meter, just to make things simple for us. So next, let's look at these points on the x-axis. I've scaled these to cluster the points near the leading edge. I just used the error function in order to do that. The leading edge has the highest curvature, so we want more points in that region to capture that curvature well. And then we plug those into the equation up above, and then that gives us values for the camber line and the thickness. And then this thickness is applied perpendicular to the camber line. So we actually need to use a little bit of trig to get the upper and lower surfaces. And that's where those formulas for theta and then the XU, XL come in. So we put all this together, and now we have X and Y positions for both the upper and lower surfaces. Autodesk Inventor needs these as a single line. So we're actually going to split this into an upper surface and a lower surface, and that works really well for import. So to do that, we need 2 new Excel documents, one for the upper surface and one for the lower surface. Now that we have those saved, let's go ahead and move over to Autodesk Inventor. So to build our airfoil geometry, the first thing we need to do is actually set our units. So Inventor will import points, assuming that the numbers are all in the base units of the document. So we want our airfoil to be 1 meter long. So that means that we need to import the points while the units of the document is in meters. Then once that's taken care of, we're going to go ahead and start a sketch on the XY plane and import those points that we generated. As you're doing this, make sure that you click on the Options button and then choose to generate a spline from the points rather than just importing the points by themselves. We'll import both the top and bottom surfaces with the splines, and then once those are in there, we need to draw a box around the airfoil for the domain. And then, like we said, the inlet, the top, and the bottom are all going to be 10 meters away. I'm going to make them 10 meters away from the center point of the sketch because that's the 0, 0, the leading edge of the airfoil. And then the outlet is 15 meters away. So once we finish our sketch, we're not going to extrude it like we typically would for a 3D problem. Instead, we're going to create a patch, which is a 2D surface. So click the patch button, then click both boundary loops to define the patch we want. And if you do this right, you should have a rectangular surface with an airfoil shaped hole cut out of the middle. Because once again, what we're interested in is not the airfoil itself, it's the air around the airfoil. That's what we want to simulate. So we can save this part. We're going to name it NACA 4412 and switch over to ANSYS Workbench. Now, if you haven't done it already, you will need to modify some settings to allow Inventor and Workbench to talk. And you get there by going to the Tools tab, clicking on Add-ins, then scrolling down to Workbench, making sure that it is unblocked and loaded. Now, the system we need for a 2D simulation is Fluid Flow Fluent. So we'll grab that and move it over into the workspace. So then we can right-click on Geometry and then click Import and find the file we just created. And once that's in there, we can double-click right here to start working on the mesh. So let's start by generating the default mesh, which is not going to be good enough. And you can see at the leading edge, there's a really bad representation of that curvature. So we're going to have to go in and make some modifications. And the first thing we're going to do is create an edge sizing by right-clicking on Mesh and then finding Edge Sizing. We're going to do that on the airfoil surface. So we can select both the top and bottom curves by holding Control while we click. And then let's set that element size to about 2 centimeters. Then if we generate that mesh again, we still have something that's too coarse to capture the curvature on the leading edge. We really want to get rid of these obvious corners. So we're going to try to fix this by choosing a smaller angle of curvature that should be resolved by the mesh. And I typically use about 3 degrees. That works pretty well. And so then we can try that again. That didn't really change much. So the reason for that is we have a local min size, which defaults to about 1.6 centimeters. So that changed it from 2 centimeters to 1.6. Really, we want it even smaller than that. So we're going to shrink that value to make that curvature normal angle take effect. And we're going to choose a value of 1 millimeter there. So we run that again, and that fixes our leading edge. But sometimes if you do this, the trailing edge doesn't turn out quite looking perfect. And the reason for this is that ANSYS defeatures things that are too small. So we have a large domain. Small for ANSYS here is 8 millimeters. So we can change that to 1 millimeter or even smaller if you're having trouble with that particular problem. And then we can run that again. So looking at the airfoil now, everything looks correct. The shape of the airfoil is right. That's the first step. So the next step is we need to provide more points close to the surface because close to the surface, we have this boundary layer that we want to try to resolve somewhat. And the best way we can do this is to create an inflation on the mesh. So to create an inflation, first we have to insert it just like we did the sizing. Then we have to select the geometry where we want that inflated mesh to live. And that's going to be the face surrounding the airfoil. The second thing we're going to do is select the boundary of that surface where we're clustering the points close to. And that goes into the boundary selection. So next, we're going to choose the number of layers that we want. And I also like setting the transition ratio a little higher. It makes the boundary between the inflation mesh and the unstructured mesh look a little cleaner. So now when we run this, we see that there's much better clustering of points close to the surface of our airfoil. Now there is some weirdness near the trailing edge. That happens a lot with the sharp trailing edge with inflations. We could probably fix this with a little bit more work, but we'll save that for another video. All right, the last step here is to name our boundaries and make them easier to find in Fluent. So to do this, we're going to select an edge or a group of edges, and then right-click and then find Create Named Selection near the bottom. And we chose the airfoil surface here, so I'll name this airfoil. Now for the rest, instead of right-clicking, you can use the shortcut, which is just the In button. I'm going to use this to select and name the inlet, outlet, top, and bottom boundaries. And then once you've done this, you can go ahead and close out of meshing, and then right-click on Mesh back on Workbench and click Update. This seems to translate the ANSYS mesh into a mesh that Fluent can understand. So then once that's done, you can double-click on Setup, and then finally we get to start in Fluent. All right, before Fluent loads up all the way, we need to select a few options here. Double precision is useful for some cases, but ours is pretty simple, and double precision slows down computation, so we'll leave that off. The number of solver processes depends on how many cores your personal machine has. I'll stick to 8 processes because this is an 8-core machine. Once Fluent opens, you'll see the mesh we just generated, along with an outline view and task page. Essentially, double-clicking on most of the items in the outline will open up a corresponding task page, allowing you to make changes. For a basic simulation, we really only need to check the materials, change the boundary conditions, and then run the simulation, because we've already taken care of the geometry and the mesh. We can open up the materials by clicking on the plus on the side, and then we open Fluid, and then you can see air. If we double click on that, it shows that we have air with a constant density and constant viscosity. Again, we can change that up later, but we're going to stick with the basics for now. Then if we open boundary conditions, it shows the various types of BCs that are currently in the file. You can open up any of these and see the named boundaries that we defined. And then you can double click on those to modify their settings. Let's open up the inlet and then change the inlet to have a velocity of 80 meters per second. The outlet doesn't have anything that we need to change, and so we can just move on. And then for the wall, we need to change the top and bottom walls to remove friction. The default is no slip, but we want to change it to specified shear, and then we're going to leave that shear at 0. And of course, this is non-physical, right? It's not a real thing. And that's one of the reasons that we wanted those walls so far away from our airfoil. With all that defined, we can skip down to Run Calculation, choose a number of iterations. I prefer about 1,000 for these simple cases, and then click Calculate. So this will actually run the simulation. It's going to pop up a window that's titled Scaled Residuals for just a moment, and the calculation should only take a few seconds to complete because we have a very coarse mesh here. The residuals show an estimate of the error for the solution, and so this is driven down each iteration as Fluent continually makes better and better guesses for the solution. And then once the error is close enough to 0, based off some criteria, then the solution is considered converged and the calculations stop. And so that's why we only had 65 iterations here rather than the 1,000 iterations that we specified. We'll get a better way of determining the error in a later video, but this is good enough for now. So the simulation's done. Let's take a look at the results. We're going to open up graphics, which is underneath results, and double click on contour. And then it's already set to pressure, so we can just click save and display, and the contour of pressure will show up. It's always helpful to plot pressure and velocity just to get a feel for what's happening with the flow. So if we zoom in, we see that the pressure on top of the airfoil is significantly lower than the pressure on the bottom. And this is where lift comes from. So we expect that our airfoil is generating lift in this case, just as it should. If we change to velocity, we see that the flow is faster on top of the airfoil. But if you zoom in and look at the surface here, it drops to 0 as we get very close to the surface. And this is that boundary layer we were expecting to see. Now, we're probably not resolving it very well at this point, but again, we can save that for a later video. Next, let's create an XY plot. And the plot that we want is the pressure on the surface of the airfoil. This is a pretty common plot, and it's cool because the integrated difference between these two lines actually gives us the lift on the airfoil. And then the last thing we'll do is have ANSYS calculate the lift and drag for us. And then the fastest way to do this is to open up reports and then double click on forces. The force with a direction purely in X is going to be drag, and the force purely in Y is going to be lift. And the results for this show up in the console, which is this section at the bottom of the screen. So if you look at drag, we can see that the pressure drag is 11 newtons, while the viscous drag is 27 newtons. And then for lift, it's essentially all pressure lift with a total of about 1.7 kilonewtons. So this video provides what you need to perform a very basic CFD simulation in ANSYS Fluent. Look out for more of this series, and we'll take a longer look at the mesh, we'll look at the air model, we'll look at turbulence, and we'll look a bit more at convergence. In any case, I hope this was helpful, and I will see you next time.